Really no Meg.
Okay. Oops.
Well, that does exclude me.
Now, why
Yeah,
is it
well.
doing that?
Okay, what do you say, John? Are we on, or are we gonna go, or what?
Well, we're on, but for some reason I can't get it to work the right way.
Feeling pressure, John, you got 30 seconds.
No,
29.
it won't let me rotate it. Okay, be that way. I see.
Frustrating.
You are. I am too. Glad you're here. I went through that with Dennis in 1992. He had a heart attack at home. Got him to the hospital. He had another one there. Yeah. That's not fun stuff.
What year was that?
92.
Well, for some reason I can't get it to.
I remember you being here. You were great help. Hey, the nurses told me afterwards.
Always
the
some-
best cheerleaders they'd ever seen in the hospital. Glad I was best at something.
Okay, you're on.
Okay. Okay.
We are?
Hi, John.
Right on, John. Thank you.
But I can't get it to go,
Okay.
it goes, put it back to portrait, so I don't know.
Okay. Well.
We're good.
Okay, we'll go with it. Our first verse in chapter 29 is an interesting verse. It says, "A man who hardens his neck after much reproof will suddenly be broken beyond remedy." You ever had a stiff neck?
Yes, I do right now.
Do you?
I looked at that and I just had to kind of smile to myself with the stiff neck. Oh,
I still do after my fall last week.
Yeah.
I still do it.
Well, imagine what it would feel like to have a spiritual stiff neck,
I'd feel.
where you're focused in on whatever you're focused on and not too interested in what anybody else or what the Lord has to say. So if you will follow along and pick a verse or two to look up and be ready to read them, that helps a lot. 2 Chronicles 36:11-16.
I'll take that one.
And Proverbs 1:24-31.
mm,
Proverbs 6:12-15.
Where's the book of calamity?
Yeah, where's the book of calamity?
It's right here.
Oh, yeah, it says to be exposed.
Oh dear. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You've got 2 Chronicles?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second Chronicles 36, beginning with verse 11. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did evil in the sight of the Lord his God, and did not humble himself before Jeremiah the prophet, who spoke from the mouth of the Lord. And he also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made him swear an oath by God. But he stiffened his neck and hardened his heart against turning to the Lord God of Israel. Moreover, all the leaders of the priests and the people transgressed more and more, according to all the abominations of the nations, and defiled the house of the Lord, which he had consecrated in Jerusalem. And the Lord God of their fathers sent warnings to them by his messengers, rising up early and sending them, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked the messengers of God, despised his words, scoffed at his prophets, until the wrath of God arose against his people, till there was no remedy.
No remedy. Imagine being stiff-necked against God until there's no fixing it. God says they can't be fixed anymore. Can't be done. I just don't want to ever be in that position. When we get our little pet projects and peeves, we gotta give them to the Lord first, and then make sure we're heading in the right direction. Proverbs 1,
I called, but you refused to listen. I held out my hand, but you paid no attention. You did not follow my advice and did not listen when I corrected you. So I will laugh when you are in trouble. I'll make fun when disaster strikes you. When disaster comes over you like a storm, when trouble strikes you like a whirlwind, when pain and trouble overwhelm you, then you'll call to me, but I will not answer. You will look for me, but you will not find me. It is because you rejected knowledge and did not choose to respect the Lord. You did not accept my advice, and you rejected my correction, so you will get what you deserve. You will get what you planned for others.
Wow.
Just, and that's not an accidental lifestyle. That's a choice.
Yeah.
That passage is about our choices. Do we choose to follow God, or do we choose to go our own way?
Well, I have,
Hoping God will agree with us.
I have a note here for that. It says, the Hebrew phrase for often rebuked is a man of continued rebukes. In other words, that's part of his life.
It just gets,
And he says, and the judgment on a person who consistently, stubbornly rejects God's correction is swift and final. So, like you said, it's a person who just chooses, okay, I'm not gonna subject myself to rebukes.
yes. When Jeremiah told the people, when you come to the crossroad, you stop there and you ask for the righteous way. You ask for the right way, the ancient paths, and you go that way. And the verse ends with, and the people said, no, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, they made a choice. We're just gonna get to our crossroad and go whichever way we want. We don't care what the Lord wants
And
or
what was
which
it?
way is the right way.
I read there about, they mocked the messengers.
Yeah.
And I'm teaching from 2nd Chronicles, and I'm talking about Hezekiah. And he gave some instructions to messengers, and when to call all people and celebrate the Passover. Said his messengers went out, and a lot of the people mocked the messengers.
We don't wanna hear about it. We're not coming. Proverbs 6:12-15.
A scoundrel and villain who goes about with a corrupt mouth, who winks with his eyes, signals with his feet, and motions with his fingers, who plots evil with deceit in his heart, he always stirs up dissension. Therefore disaster will overtake him in an instant, he will suddenly be destroyed without remedy.
Okay.
A lot of destruction in these
Yes, it
passages.
is. But it's to those who choose that path. They choose that path. It doesn't have to be that way. Those words about troubled and being destroyed, that's the word calamity.
Yeah.
We don't use that word very much anymore. It used to be a pretty colloquial word. What does calamity, what do you think about when you
Chaos.
hear the word calamity?
Chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay.
Planned chaos.
The biblical term means that you're gonna be exposed.
Yeah.
You're gonna be exposed to what decision you made, why you chose the path you chose. That's gonna come back to bite you one day, somewhere along the way, either this life or the life to come. It's not gonna get passed over, it's gonna be exposed. And you're going to have to stand accountable for those decisions that you made.
Years ago, when I was in Norfolk, Virginia, we would go to the rescue mission in downtown Norfolk, Virginia. And I remember, and I wasn't that old in the Lord at that time. I remember one of the speakers came out, and he was carrying a chair that was similar to these, but it wasn't cushioned. And it was all, the back of it was all bent up. And I'm thinking, what in the world is this? And he says, and he began to give his testimony, and it was centered on this verse. And he said, this chair used to be right down there, And he said, I came and I stood behind that chair, mission after mission service. And he said, when the invitation was given, I'd stand there and I'd just twist. And he says, this is a result of my stubbornness. I would just twist, and the back of that chair was just all twisted up. And he says, one day, I quit twisting and went forward. And he was, at that time, I think he was in his mid to late 50s. So,
It's never too late. As long as you're drawing breath, it's never too late. Never too late. Verse 2. We've talked about this quite a bit. When the righteous increase, the people will rejoice. But when a wicked man rules, people groan. Don't we know about that these days?
I've got Esther.
Okay.
Are you ready for it now?
Mhm.
Oh, okay, I thought you were gonna say the other. So it's 11 to,
17.
okay. The king's edict granted the Jews in every city the right to assemble and protect themselves, to destroy, kill, and annihilate any armed force of any nationality or province that might attack them and their women and children, and to plunder the property of their enemies. This is after he had given permission for them to kill the Jews,
Yes.
and then after he realized that Esther, his
Was a
queen, was a Jew,
Well,
he amended that. He couldn't rescind it, but he amended it and
and
says,
he
all right,
realized that Haman was manipulating him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, you guys know so much. How long does it take?
Oh, Esther is my favorite book.
Yeah. It
Okay,
takes
so
78
he
years.
tells them they can kill the Jew, they can kill their oppressors. The day appointed for the Jews to do this in all the provinces of King Xerxes was the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar. A copy of the text of the edict was to be issued as law in every province and made known to the people of every nationality, so that the Jews would be ready on that day to avenge themselves on their enemies. The couriers, riding the royal horses, raced out, spurred on by the king's command, and the edict was also issued in the citadel of Susa. Mordecai left the king's presence wearing royal garments of blue and white, a large crown of gold, and a purple robe of fine linen. And the city of Susa held a joyous celebration. For the Jews, it was a time of happiness and joy, gladness and honor. In every province and in every city, wherever the edict of the king went, there was joy and gladness among the Jews, with feasting and celebrating. And many Jews of other nationalities and many people of other nationalities became Jews because fear of the Jews had seized them.
So the corrupt king who made a corrupt edict then changes his mind, and from that he canceled that and gave the people freedom, and they rejoiced. And that's where we all are when we have a corrupt government. It's really difficult day by day sometimes.
Yeah, this is one of the times that God saved the Jews. Again, I mean, he rescued
Oh, yeah.
them
Over and
over
over.
and over and over, and this was one of the times when they could have been wiped out.
and to answer a little bit what Jeff had about how long does it take,
Yeah.
I've been at it for 62 years. I'm in this every day, and I'm still finding stuff brand new to me.
Yeah, Esther is amazing.
Putting
You can't-
aside a
you
couple
can't
hours every
exhaust it.
morning. I'm trying to catch up.
Well, you need to get
Not
in
gonna
the Old
make it.
Testament and see how
Oh.
it relates to the New.
That'll tell you, I struggle with moving that
I know,
direction.
but you're missing out.
It all goes together. It's
Yeah.
not two separate books. It's all goes together. And I think I got my first Bible when I was 10. And I read it. So that's 68 years. Got you beat by 5.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. Proverbs 11:10.
When the righteous prosper, the city rejoices. When the wicked perish, there are shouts of joy.
Okay. And Proverbs 28:12. And verse 28.
righteous triumph, there is great glory. But when the wicked rise, people hide themselves.
Create the last verse.
When the wicked rise, people hide themselves. But when they perish, the righteous increase.
So we don't like crooked governments. We don't like that. It's not good for us. We don't have.
God doesn't like it either.
No, he doesn't, and
That's what
Well,
counts the
the
most.
wicked need to be hiding themselves around here pretty soon.
but he does allow them, he allows that, and he uses it to correct us and remind us that there's better ways of living than what's being doled out to us. All right, verse 3, the man who loves wisdom makes his father glad, and he who keeps company with harlots wastes his wealth.
Waste of your money.
And this is one of my favorite verses in Proverbs 6:26. So, somebody look up Proverbs 10:1, 15, and verse
A wise
20.
son makes a glad father, but a foolish son is a sorrow to his mother.
He just doesn't get anything good out of his life. If your own mom and dad aren't too happy with you, who's going to be? Proverbs
So with my
15:20.
grandson is right.
That's almost,
15:20.
it's almost the same. A wise son brings joy to his father, but a foolish man despises his mother.
Yeah. When children behave that way, it does feel like they despise you. You've told them this is right and this is wrong, but you have to choose. And when they choose wrong, it's like, doggone it anyway. Why won't they listen? Why won't they trust me to tell them the right way? Proverbs 6:26.
For by means of a prostitute, a man is reduced to a crust of bread, and an adulteress will prey upon his precious life.
In my Bible, it says he's reduced to a loaf of bread, which is a little better than just a crust.
Yeah.
But
And then
I
as
just
far as
love
the
that verse.
adulteress, it says the wife of another, literally a man's wife.
Yeah. So to get involved in sexual relationships with people other than your own wife, you will end up being as dumb as a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
And you can't get much dumber than a loaf of bread. Luke 15:29-31. That's a Jeff verse.
I know, and I'm rushing to get to it, and I can't find it all.
But the
Well, wait,
oldest-
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Go ahead.
But the oldest son said to his father, I've served you like a slave for many years, and I've always obeyed your commands. But you never gave me even a young goat to have a feast with my friends. But your other son, who wasted all your money on prostitute, comes home, and you kill the fat calf for him. The father said to him, Son, you are always with me, and all that I have is yours.
Does it pay to turn away from family traditions, family wisdom? It doesn't pay, it really doesn't. And then you have to end up coming home and, eat your words and humble yourself, which none of us like to do. Or you could just stay with your family, deal with the situations, and be part of it the whole time, and not have that space of what you're going to be embarrassed about for the rest of your life.
Years ago, Kenny Rogers, the singer, was in a Western movie, and he played the part of the preacher. And during the story, he was preaching on the Ten Commandments. And he got in the pulpit, he says, we need to pray that, he says, someone stole my bicycle. And so the church was praying, and then a few weeks later, the preacher gets into the pulpit, he says, well, I found my bike. He said, going through the Ten Commandments, he says, I got to the one that says, thou shalt not commit adultery, and I remembered where I left my bike.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
Unfortunately, we still have those preachers among us.
Yeah.
Yes. Verse 4 talks about stability. The king gives stability to the land by justice. We can understand that. The man who takes bribes overthrows the government, or overthrows the stability of a community. If a judge takes a bribe, a policeman takes a bribe, a district attorney takes a bribe, no justice is had in those cases. And it doesn't take a long time for that to become part of the society that we're in,
Exactly.
and you begin to not trust anybody. 2 Chronicles 9:8.
I got it.
Okay.
This is talking about Solomon. Blessed be the Lord your God who delighted in you, setting you on his throne to be king for the Lord your God. Because your God has loved Israel to establish them forever. Got that? To establish them forever. Israel's not going anywhere. Therefore he made you king over them to do justice and righteousness.
So what is a king supposed to do?
Promote justice and righteousness.
Righteousness. And do they do that?
A lot of them do.
No, a lot of them are more interested in how big their palace is,
Yeah.
and how many cars they have, and how many airplanes they have.
How many votes they can get.
Well, a king doesn't need votes.
Yeah, right.
He just is the king, and
Yeah,
you
you
just
just gotta be
pick it or
organized.
lump it, yeah. Proverbs 8:12-21.
8:12-21. I, wisdom, dwell together with prudence. I possess knowledge and discretion. To fear the Lord is to hate evil. I hate pride and arrogance, evil behavior and perverse speech. Counsel and sound judgment are mine. I have understanding and power. By me, kings reign and rulers make laws that are just. How far am I supposed to go?
21.
21, okay. I love those who love me, and those who seek me find me. With me are riches and honor, enduring wealth and prosperity. My fruit is better than fine gold. What I yield surpasses choice silver. I walk in the way of righteousness along the paths of justice, bestowing wealth on those who love me and making their treasuries full.
So wisdom, and who's wisdom?
You say, who is wisdom?
Who is wisdom?
God.
Well, God says he's wisdom. He
Exactly.
made unto us wisdom.
And he has the power to set up kings and take down kings, and set up governments and take down governments.
That's really interesting, isn't it? That he does that.
And we have to be sure that when the person we don't particularly like gets put into government, into position, that obviously that's what God wanted, or he wouldn't be there. And we have to learn to deal with that within ourselves, and pray for those in leadership over us. Pray for those who vote, that they will vote righteously and not personally, you know, but to follow what God would want us to do. And it talks about the fruit of righteousness in there. It says, righteousness, the fruit of that is better than gold and silver. So,
And remember, James said, if any man or woman lack wisdom, let him ask of
God,
the president or,
yes,
let him ask God,
yeah,
who gives to everyone who asks without saying,
what are you
you're asking for this too much.
Yeah,
So
That
I
was-
love that.
that was my salvation verse at 8 years old. That's the first Bible verse I can remember being inspired by, you might say. Being the youngest of 6, I never won a card game. I never won a board game. if I ask a question, I got some cockamamie answer that didn't even make any sense to me,
Pat, I would've let you win.
would you?
Yeah.
Well, my brothers wouldn't let me win. God forbid that I should beat them at anything. But I read that verse, and I just suddenly knew I can just ask God. I don't have to ask these yahoos. I can ask God, and He will
Yeah.
tell me the truth. And He has
Ah.
all these years.
That's good.
And then I end up being the only one that went to college, and they all are going, how could you do that? How could you do that to us?
Yeah.
It was easy. It was easy.
Amen.
Proverbs 29:14.
If
I
a
wondered
king,
why you never asked us any questions.
Well, I only ask good questions I already know the answers to. Or I'm pretty sure I know the answers to.
if a king judges the poor with fairness, his throne will always be secure.
Amen.
Mhm.
Amen.
So governments that aren't fair, aren't righteous, that are a little corrupt, probably aren't going to last too long. And if you find yourself in one of those, be patient. The Lord will take it out in His time.
And the interesting thing, the word for secure there can also be translated safe.
Yes.
Safe.
Well, that's security.
Yeah,
Is a
Safe.
sense of being safe where you are and where you live and who you are. Yeah.
And it follows along with the verse, if, I know the plans that I have for you,
Yes.
declares the Lord.
Yes.
Plans for your welfare and not calamity, as we talked about,
Right.
to give you a future filled with hope. And that fits for the prodigal brothers.
Mhm.
The one that was upset with his dad because he stayed home. He had it all.
Yeah,
It was all there for him without calamity.
right.
But it took calamity to bring his brother home to
Back
enjoy
to
the future.
security. Back to security.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
and it does it for a king. I mean, if you're fair with your people in your realm, you're secure.
Yes, you're not going to have anybody wanting to assassinate you.
No.
Yeah. Verse 5, we talked about flattery before. A man who flatters his neighbor is spreading a net for his steps, and that's his own steps, not the steps of the neighbor. So tell me what you think about flattery. We talked about that a little bit in the past. It's mostly lies.
It doesn't seem sincere to me.
Right. It isn't sincere. And it's generally has a purpose behind it, to get you to be my friend because I want you to loan me some money, or get you
Yeah.
to be my friend because I want a job in your office. That kind of thing is kind of behind flattery. Oh, you're so wonderful. I just can't get enough of you.
well, lies entrap liars.
Mm-hmm. And that's what flattery does, because eventually you're gonna find out that person really isn't all that wonderful, and maybe you wouldn't do very well in their office.
Abraham Lincoln, who was known as what, Honest Abe,
Mm-hmm.
was asked about it one time. Why are you so honest? He said, well, I learned a long time ago, he didn't say who he learned it from, he said, I learned a long time ago that no individual is smart enough to be a successful liar. And if I was gonna be smart, I didn't lie.
Well,
Good-
it
good word.
perpetuates lying. You know, once you tell a lie, then there's gonna come an opportunity when you're gonna have to tell another lie,
Yeah.
cover up that lie, and then you get to the 15th lie and you can't even remember what the first one was. So you're in big trouble by then. But flattery is more than just lying. Flattery is an attempt to manipulate somebody.
Here, the Hebrew word means to be smooth, slippery, or deceitful.
And if you're smooth out what you're doing, once they realize that all you're saying is a bunch of flattery. Psalms 5:9, somebody got that one? Proverbs 7:21.
I can go Proverbs.
26:28.
With much seductive speech, she persuades him. With her smooth talk, she compels him.
But smooth talk, they what?
She compels him.
Yeah, that can get us into a lot of trouble when we believe our own press. You know, we start believing what people say.
I like the next verse. All at once he calls her.
Wants to hear some more about how wonderful I am. Yeah, okay.
Excuse me just a second. Is anybody else getting reception on this? I don't see it, and I just had somebody contact me and
Oh,
say, I
yeah,
can't
it's not
find it.
coming. I see there's a
Bill
little
don't
thing.
have it on his
beeping
either.
on the
I
side.
can't get it either. We must not be broadcasting. I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure.
You can do it, John.
You can do it, John.
And that's not flattery.
Yeah.
I had a boss one time
Hello.
that took this flattery stuff a little bit further. He didn't like it at all. What he did though was bad, cause he didn't like anybody to tell him good morning. And when I started working there, well, one of the girls told me, says, now, don't speak to him when he comes in, just don't speak to him. And I thought, well, I'm not gonna be rude, I'll speak to him. And I said, good morning, Mr. Woodall. He said, don't you butter me up. I thought, wow.
Oh,
It's like a fellow we saw in the store one time.
It's showing that
We were checking out.
we're on.
He was in front of us. And when he was through checking out, the checker said, have a nice
Still doing that
day.
thing.
And he turned to her and said, don't you tell me what to do. Oh. Wow.
wow.
Same thing, yeah,
Same kind of thing.
yeah.
We